what most people don't realize when it comes to work is that very few jobs have truly objective measures of performance. In my book, I have four key pieces of advice on this. We've got perspective taking for P, I for initiative, N for nonverbal, G for goals. So, starting with perspective taking, one of the issues that often happens with virtual communication is we're just staring at text or staring at this little square of someone on their computer screen. And when we're in person, it's hard to forget you're interacting with a person. If they're standing right in front of you, you're thinking about, well, how are they going to react to this? When you're just looking at them as a little square or some text, we forget this. So we tend to focus on our own perspective when we're writing, which is why our messages are so often misinterpreted because we don't think about, well, what information are they coming from? What assumptions are they coming from? So taking a moment and consider, well, if I was a person on the other side, based on their position, whether they're a customer, whether they're my boss or subordinate, how might they interpret this differently? Next is I for initiative. That is the idea that for any given mode of communication, you want to think about ways to take the initiative to add back in whatever's missing. So, for instance, if you think about two employees, let's say you're a manager, and one of the employees at the end of the week sends you a 5 paragraph long email on Friday, updating you with everything they did for the week. The other employee at the end of each day just sends you a few sentence check-in saying, hey, I did this for the day. Uh, which one do you think would be harder working if you were the manager? Which one do you think is the better employee? If you're like most people, you would say the latter employee because it seems like they're working every day. But here's the thing, both employees are sending the exact same amount of text in their communication, just the latter one's changing the frequency. So the idea here is that one way you take initiative is by not communicating a greater quantity, but doing it a little bit more frequently can make you seem more present and you're more engaged. Then N for nonverbal. We often don't realize all of the cues we're sending via virtual communication, and they're different. An email, typos can send information. Time of day, messages sent can send information. With video calls, it's important to maintain eye contact, which is a lot more awkward because you're staring at your web camera as opposed to the other person's face. Otherwise, it seems like you're just checking your email or staring off into oblivion on the side. So making sure that you understand all the different types of nonverbal behavior in virtual communication is vital. And then lastly is G for goals. So I wish I could say that there was one communication mode that was best overall, but that would be a very short book. So I highlight how, depending on your goal, different choices are better. So when it comes to video interactions or video calls, there's always a big question of cameras on or cameras off. Research indicates that if it's a new relationship, you're trying to build trust, cameras on can be useful because we trust people we feel more familiar with. We can see what they look like. We understand their mannerisms. But cameras off can be better because we get this thing called Zoom fatigue or video conferencing fatigue, where it can be exhausting looking at yourself on the screen, monitoring all your nonverbal behavior. And research shows that turning your camera off can actually give you more energy, can decrease burnout, can give you more focus on the task or your next tasks. So whether your goal here is to preserve energy or to build a new relationship, it depends on the situation, and that will determine what your best choice is here. And all these things combined, along with a number of other recommendations I tie into this framework about how you can make sure that you build a great impression when you're interacting virtually.